Let's have a quick chat about the history and the design of the modern drum kit. A modern rock drum kit has its history in marching bands, in military drums, things like that. And it kind of evolved through jazz music, through kind of trap kits and early jazz kits, and then turned into the modern drum kit or the modern rock kit when amplified music came through in the 40s and 50s. Now, in different periods or different eras of drum kit manufacture, they actually are designed to sound quite different. So a 60s drum kit sounds different from a 70s drum kit, sounds different from a modern drum kit. And there are also variations between genres. If you're a metal drummer, for example, you will pick a certain sort of drum kit that has a very big, punchy sound. If you're a modern jazz drummer, you're going to pick a drum kit that might look roughly the same, but is actually going to sound completely different. Now, there's a lot of variation in what actually makes up a drum kit, but there are some standard things that we expect to see almost all the time. We have a kick drum, which is the big, heavy, low-frequency drum that's on the floor. And we have a snare drum, which is that usually, but not always, metal drum that sits on the left-hand side of the drummer. And that has a kind of rattle or a snare on it that means it has a very bright, snappy sound when it's hit. We have toms, which are the kind of big, long, resonant, boomy drums. Standard number would be 3, but some people would have fewer toms, some people would have more. And these are used for emphasis, for fills, for all sorts of sort of additional detailing. We have a hi-hat, which is 2 small cymbals that can kind of close together. And that's the primary rhythm element of a drum kit in most styles of music. We have cymbals. There are 2 primary types of cymbal. The crash cymbal, which is a big, very bright sounding cymbal that's used to delineate transitions, to add drama, things like that. And you have a ride cymbal, which has a softer, more shimmery sound to it and tends to be used more as a rhythmic element, especially in things like jazz, where you would use the ride probably as much, if not more, than the hi-hat. Now, there are a bunch of other things you can add to kits, additional percussion, things like that, but this is the basic foundation that pretty much every drum kit will have. And it's kind of the same with recording. There are as many ways to record drum kits as there are engineers who record drum kits, but the most standard approach is a combination of close mics, overhead, and room mics. Now, close mics are what they sound like. They're microphones that are put right up against an individual drum, and the idea is to capture more or less just that drum with just a little bit of bleed from the other drum sounds. Kicks, snares, toms, and hi-hats all typically have close mics on them. You might also see close mics on cymbals, but not necessarily. Now, overheads, like their name suggests, are typically put over the drum kit, and they are most commonly a stereo pair, although there are other ways of doing overheads. They are intended to capture a kind of a snapshot of the entire drum kit all at once. You hear a reasonably even balance of all the drum sounds, and this is often where you get a lot of the cymbal and the hi-hat sounds in the drum kit from. On top of that, you'll have as many room mics as you feel like, and a room mic is a mic that's even further away than the overheads and is intended to capture the sound of the drum kit in a room with all of the reflections and reverberations that come with that room. Now, of course, depending on the space that a drum was recorded in, you'll get very, very different room sounds. For example, the stadium kit that we're working with was recorded in a really big room, whereas the garage kit was clearly recorded in a much smaller room and has a very different room sound to it. So this is kind of the basic overview of how a drum kit fits together. If you've not worked with live drums before, it's not the most intuitive thing, but once you start understanding kind of all the component pieces, it becomes much easier to fit all these pieces together and start doing sort of the things that you want to do creatively. So in the next video, we're going to be taking a look at how a programmed drum kit actually works, how it was recorded, and how we use it.